The nature of solo queue when compared to pro play is an interesting one. Oftentimes you come across champions that get frequently picked and ranked, but in the competitive scene they have next to no presence at all, or vice versa. Typically the main thing responsible for that is coordination. Champions who thrive in discordant environments will naturally be seen more often in solo queue, where the only method of consistent communication between teammates are pings and the occasional message. It's why assassins and skirmishers almost always have a stronger presence. Strangely, however, there's an assassin who's been consistently declining in popularity for much of 2024, and 2025 being at the lowest in play rate she's been in many years, Evelynn. Evelynn used to be a very consistent presence both before and after she came out for her unique ability to be effectively invisible throughout the entire course of a game. And despite having seemingly everything a solo queue demon could want, she appears to be one of the least popular junglers in the game. So in today's episode of Why No One Plays, we're gonna look into what exactly changed in the game that made her go from an effective pick to an obscure one. What separates Evelynn from the majority of the assassin class is not how much damage they do in a short time frame, rather the method of access to said damage. To rightfully call a champion an assassin, they need to fulfill 3 requirements. 1. Burst damage. Their ability to quickly assault the enemy target's health bar in a very short period of time is the first and foremost discerning factor for an assassin. 2. Lack of defense. Assassins by nature are among the squishiest champions in the game to offset their high DPS, creating the overarching playstyle of high risk, high reward, where you can get exploded just as easily as you can explode them. In addition to being fast at 100 to zeroing you, assassins are difficult to properly react against, either by way of speed and/or stealth. Their ability to go from being out of vision to immediately on top of you in the span of half a second contributes to their threat capability. Evelynn follows along the same line as her peers, at least initially. She can one-tap you extremely fast and is also easy to get bursted herself. Number 3, however, is where things get a bit tricky. By and large, the assassin archetype focuses primarily on speed to lower the time opponents have to react against you, with stealth and untargetability being supplementary elements to that purpose. Talon, Zed, Akali, Katarina, Echo, Rengar, Qiyana, LeBlanc, how they surprise you is by closing in on you very quickly, making them rushdown champs in nature. Sure, the likes of Rengar, Kha'Zix, Pyke, and Shaco rely on being invisible up until they get to you, but they have both the gap closer and a stealth tool to complement one another. Evelynn has only stealth to get within striking range. Aware of that, Riot decided to give her quite possibly one of the best passes an assassin could ask for, granting her camouflage that holds out for an indefinite period of time until she attacks or breaks it herself. Such a powerful ability also comes with the added benefit of having near endless endurance, as Evelynn continuously regenerates HP up to a certain point when dropping below that point, meaning she could theoretically stay out forever if you so choose. Demon Shade on its own eliminates the universal form of address against assassins, vision. Because the pressure of an assassin is greatly contingent on the element of surprise, losing said element causes them to be significantly easier to handle. If you see a Qiyana running towards you, she becomes a much weaker threat. But thanks to her persistent stealth, Evelynn is one of the most difficult junglers to keep track of, since the only way you can spot her is if she attacks near vision or through control wards. But there's only so much area you can cover with 5 control wards, and that's if your teammates all agree to buy them. This affords Evelynn a mountain of ways to gank at level 6, being able to simply just walk through lane. I mean, what the hell can the enemy team do about it? Right here though is actually where her first major problem stems from. Accounting for the fact that Evelynn's passive is just so overpowered, she has very little ways to increase her tempo or mobility quickly. Mobility is the one thing assassins can use to make up for if they get spotted. Even if you see a Zed running towards you through a deep ward, you'll be expecting him, yes, but the threat of him is still very much real and you'll have to be ready to fight for your life. For Evelynn, however, the loss in pressure from being spotted is more crippling to her, because she has nothing to preserve her threat beyond being invisible up until the point she attacks. If Evelynn's in a situation where stealth is of little merit to a champion with how dependent on stealth she is, she becomes way less effective than just about any other jungler. Like I said, even if you see Rengar or Kha'Zix running around invisible and brace yourself for a fight, that doesn't change the fact that they can nuke you instantly. But in Evelynn's case, there are many instances where seeing her even just a split second earlier than she wants you to is enough to neutralize her completely. Another strength assassins have is their ability to quickly escape from a bad situation, making them difficult to strike back unless they make a mistake. But for Evelynn, she really doesn't have an escape option. Her escape option is simply not being spotted to begin with. If you catch her out, she fights at a significant disadvantage, something most other assassins don't have to deal with. In short, the first reason people don't play Evelynn that much anymore is because she's too reliant on Demon Shade to be effective, even when circumstances have changed to make it a lot less so. Recent years in League have made the game very much into a first strike meta, wherein the team that takes more initiative will usually win, whether that comes in the form of a pick or in a full-blown team fight where the enemy frontline dies before yours does. Commensurately, not only did champions who excel at first striking become more valuable, so too did champions who are equally capable of responding against them. Evelynn might be one of the best champions in the game at dishing it out, but she sure as hell can't take it, making her feel way worse to play by opportunity cost. The problem is, most of the time she has to put herself in a position to expose herself, such as when farming in the jungle or simply walking around. It would be one thing if Evelynn had complete vision of the map at all times and could see where everyone is, that way she could play around it, but even with her stealth, she could just as easily accidentally face check into a brush against the enemy team, as they could get randomly caught out by her sneaking up to them. You see that happening most often in jungle to jungle combat. Invades and counter jungling have become increasingly more common than they used to. 10 years ago, the game had a few predator junglers and a few players bold enough to invade early, but nowhere near to the same extent as we have now. For starters, Evelynn has no stealth before level 6, therefore any champion with a modicum of dueling pressure can just hunt her right away. And it just so happens most of the game's popular junglers are those very attack-heavy champs. She basically gets outdueled by the majority of junglers in the game, forcing it to have to play a very avoidant playstyle in the early game and give up a massive amount of pressure to do so. As a result, Evelynn might be one of the most macro-demanding junglers in the game, which in turn has a subsequent effect of making her extremely micro-demanding as well. When people think of micro-mechanics, they usually think of stuff like aiming skill shots or dodging abilities or attack moving and whatnot, to which none of those particularly are a thing on Eve, but in her case, all she can rely on is stealth to get into a fight, making positioning the foremost win condition to playing her well. In a hectic environment like teamfights, you can't just rush down the enemy squishy the same way a different assassin can. If you do that, then you're just a bad Evelynn player. In addition to junglers being more aggressive now than ever before, the need for early priority on objectives has also gone up tremendously. More objectives have been added to the game over the years to accelerate the pace of a match. A decade ago, dragons were for the most part optional things you did to kill time while waiting for something to happen. Now, the entire team makes an effort to secure objectives, not only for the feats of strength, but simply due to the compounding effects of objectives. Dragons are conducive to Dragon Soul, Void Grubs and Riptails are conducive to opening up the map. Autocon is conducive to a level advantage and better teamfight pressure. All of them are non-negligible advantages to vie for, and that makes Evelynn's job even more difficult. From a pragmatic standpoint, Evelynn's one of the worst objective takers in the game. To repeat once more, the only thing she has to not only give her away into her target but also protect her from being engaged on is her stealth. While taking an objective, she exposes herself for the entire duration, effectively placing a big red target on herself. Not to say other champions don't also get put in a vulnerable spot, but again, they have better ways to deal with it. A Talon could be working on the dragon and the enemy J4 engages on him. He can either turn around to fight him or just hop over the wall and run. Eve, on the other hand, is unable to do either. You might say, what about Last Caress? True, in a pinch, the untarget ability and Blink Out doubles as an escape tool, but that also happens to be a huge amount of her damage as well. Empower and Whiplash and Allure are ill-suited for responding to enemy attack. They can only be used to initiate attack. Being forced to use Last Caress, which deals measurably less damage to enemies not already low health, shuts down Evelynn's pressure damn near completely. By comparison, most if not all of their assassins can use their escape tool without losing any combat pressure whatsoever, or they can straight up just attack you for trying to attack them first. Essentially, Evelynn has to rely on her teammates to be at objectives with her, as they can both expedite the process of killing the objective, and if on the off chance a fight breaks out, they can buy her time to set up for a second and come back in to fight, which has the counterintuitive effect of relying on inherently unreliable teammates to play the game. Kind of ironic that an assassin, the type of champion best suited for exploiting chaos, requires their team to be in order to function properly. But that's ultimately why Evelynn's losing popularity. For Evelynn, the best condition for the game to be in is a slow one, contrasting her from her peers. Other assassins want the game to be as fast as possible since they will always win in a contest of speed. Evelynn, however, thrives when the game is as slow as possible. That gives her time to skulk around and pick off isolated targets. Reason being, she simply doesn't have the tempo to match it. She's almost like a juggernaut. You have to slowly walk up to a target. You can't jump over 20 walls like a Talon or gap close from an entire screen away like Yone. But over the years, everything got faster. Champions level up faster, junglers rotate around the map faster, objectives spawn faster and at higher frequency, and champions can kill stuff faster. There's more cooldown reduction than ever before, and with damage and mobility both being at an all-time high, Evelynn can't really keep up with that. She could be pathing through the jungle not even looking to kill anything, and then you see a 500 move speed Hecarim zooming across the jungle with Dustwalker, and he just happens to accidentally spot you without even attempting to, and bam, now he's gonna start running towards you, meanwhile you're caught with your pants down. Well, I don't think Evelynn wears pants, or any clothes at all for that matter, but you get the idea. The faster the game gets, the weaker Evelynn becomes. And even if she's trying to attack someone, the instant the enemy she presses W on sees the animation and has a general idea of where you're coming from, they can just run the other direction. How is an Eve supposed to assassinate a Pyke or Aurora who can just dip away at a moment's notice? Likewise, new champions are just a lot better in handling Evelynn because they've all been designed according to the faster and more chaotic pace of the game. Mel can reflect a spike on reaction, Umbessa has a million dashes to run, Aurora I just mentioned, Smolder can fly over a wall, Neferi can go untargetable now, Milio has a get off me tool in the form of Q, not to mention a cleanse on ultimate, Evelynn doesn't want to be anywhere near Cassante, Neela can dash, Belved can dash, Sari can dash, like everyone can just run away from Evelynn at the first sign of danger, placing even more emphasis on knowing exactly just when to go in, and how to go in. Also, even though solo queue is nowhere near as coordinated as pro play, the natural progression of the game is to play for a teamfight win condition. Suddenly win conditions happen maybe 1 out of every 100 games if that, and due to games being faster, laning phase becomes shorter, and teams group more often, at which point it becomes even harder for Evelynn to do her job when the person she wants to assassinate has their entire team protecting them. The reason other assassins aren't quite as concerned about the team grouping together is because most assassins nowadays can make it to their target of interest anyway. Realistically, what can the enemy team do to stop a Zed from flash W ulting their ADC? Not much, cause it's so fast and he's untargetable. What can they do to stop a Talon from parkouring over the wall, going invis, dashing onto the enemy ADC, and one-tapping them before jumping over another wall and running away? Or better yet, you have assassins like Kiana and Yone who can blow up the entire team all at once, let alone a single enemy. I've seen a Rengar willingly ult onto a target surrounded by their entire team and still manage to blow them up instantly. Evelynn, however, just doesn't have that option. She has to slowly walk up to an enemy, she has no other way to get in. Whiplash is only like a 300 range dash. She is so dependent on her passive to get her close to the enemy team that in any situation where stealth is practically ineffective, she loses all her pressure. But you know what, let's assume you have that perfect game. A game where the enemy team's all out of sync, your team is there to clear enemy control wards and secure objectives with you, everything's all hunky-dory and you can do whatever you want. At that point, any champion would do well. That is the fundamental problem with Evelynn. There is hardly anything that she could do that other assassins can't do just as well with the same privilege. With the right conditions, Evelynn can be one of the most powerful champions in the game. But with the right conditions, any champion can be as powerful as her. It's what remains consistent and when you had to respond against enemy attempts to shut you down that matter more. Diana is a popular jungler for the sheer fact that while she enjoys sniping out one target at a time, if push comes to shove you can also play her like a general attacker, which most people do nowadays anyway. Kindred is strong because even if they can't get a lot of early marks or they're not in a position to invade, they're still a marksman that can scale as well as any other marksman, and they have an ultimate whose value remains the same whether they're 10-0 or 0-10. Evelynn is nothing without her stealth, and unlike other stealth champions like Shaco or Akali, hers is more macro intensive than micro, making you have to see the game in an entirely different way and more importantly delicate way, since if your stealth is compromised, so are you. She really is ironic. One would assume that being invisible 90% of the game would give you so much more freedom to do whatever you want, but applicably speaking, Evelynn ends up having to play more restricted than the majority of other junglers in the game. Therefore, while she has an above average win rate, that's only as a result of one tricks who master that playstyle. For everyone else, they'd rather pick a champion who can do just as much as her, if not more, without having to learn an entirely new skill set. And to that I say good riddance. I don't think I'm alone in saying stealth in general is a frustrating mechanic. I hate fighting against Evelynn even if she's not that good because the amount of Eve mains who say, oh just buy a control ward like you can cover the entire f***ing map with 5 control wards drives me nuts. Still though, I thought she deserved a video. Anyways, what do you guys think about Evelynn? Do you agree or disagree with my points on her? Let me know in the comments down below. That's it for today, so if you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate it if you like to like and subscribe. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Vars, join my Discord server, and check out my other Why No One Plays episodes if you haven't yet. But till next time, thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care.